Welcome back. We're just coming up 1:55 to go to the start. This will be the finals race 8. The race management team certainly they had a goal of a minimum of 2 races this afternoon in these very light conditions. And if this one goes off okay and it doesn't sort of get too settled, we could actually be in for one more race, which would be a treat. But Andy, 1:30 to go. It's pretty tough, you know. You got to roll the dice off the line.
Yes, it's not so important now. It doesn't seem so important which end of the line you're on. So who's going to book which end of the line? We saw Dylan Fletcher and Alan Sign take the right-hand side of the beat the previous time.
Just looking out on the course with coming up to a minute to go. It just looks a little bit more even than it has. The wind's coming and going. It's only around 4 or 5 knots. The right-hand side of the course has often showed to be a bit more pressure. But as we go into the last minute of this one, the left hand looks okay. It looks very even over the course, right up to the top mark. We're going to do 2 laps. Which should take around 20 minutes. The top mark at 155 degrees as we come into 30 seconds. And we can see a lot of compression at the windward end of the line. The getting time on distance, getting that acceleration right off the line is so important. The skiffs do, or the 49ers do have the capability to come up to the line and really park. So 7 seconds to go. We're now into the speed build coming up and we look who's bow forwards.
Looks like the French.
General recall.
Very close.
General recall.
Okay.
You see that flag on the bow of the boat? That's the general recall flag.
Did you see who was on the right-hand end of the line? It was our series leaders, the guys who won the race just now, Dylan Fletcher and Alan Sign, who fancied the right-hand committee boat end of the start line.
Well, as I said to you, Andy, just you know, as I was just talking about leading in, the wind over the water, over the track at the moment looks pretty even. In fact, if you're making a call, you might even say there's another little flick back to this left-hand side, and that wouldn't have gone unnoticed by Fletcher, I'm sure, because it was good to him in the first start.
Yeah. So keeping their heads up the course, as Alan Sign said earlier.
Well, it's so important, isn't it, in the light, you know, that you're looking at the longer plan. But we do have a general recall, so the boats will come down behind the line.
It's turning into a bit of a pattern, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Where you give them an inch and they take a mile, so they're naughty boys. They cross the start line early. David Campbell-James has to fire the recall signal.
Well, you'd have heard that yourself. 30 seconds to the next warning. General recall.
No mucking about.
Straight into a warning. I think he'll be black flag as well for this one. He's pretty quick on the draw with the black flag.
Well, I just wonder if we do have another race start later on this afternoon for a third race, would he go straight into a black flag? I think he might think, well, this is how it goes with this fleet.
It's the warning signal. And well, I just heard David James say there the next start will be black. So
we're going to see a more conservative form of starting again as we have in the previous races. But the sailors will use this next 5 minutes just to keep on looking up the course and getting a sense of which side of the course they want, which has the darker water that indicates the better breeze.
I'll just take a little bit of a glance again myself. Certainly, it looks for my eye in terms of pressure on the water or wind speed on the water, I would call it even over the course.
So there's a lot more boat speed involved today than if you can't gain an advantage by going up one side of the course or the other. And for a while, we saw it was very even up both sides of the course. We saw the lead change from left to right and then back to left again as there were little pressure differences from side to side on the course. But ultimately, Dylan Fletcher and Alan Sign showed great speed, and it was their good speed that got them into contention. And once they got their nose in front, then they just couldn't be caught.
Well, we'll see how this one develops. Again, if you can make a break from the group, you can then just let your speed build up a little bit more, and they just extended. They were gone.
You've got less to think about as well.
Will they be able to do it in this one? It's
when you're not distracted by other boats around you, you can focus much more 100% on boat speed, because you don't have the tactical considerations of the people that are in there fighting with each other.
It's coming up to 3:15 to go to the start. Our onboard today is with the regatta leaders going into today. Of course, now they are back in second place. That's Peter Burling, Blair Tuke. Burling from the Tauranga Yacht Club in New Zealand, Blair Tuke from the Bay of Islands.
You can see Pete Burling vigorously waggling his tiller, trying to keep some sort of grip on the or some steerage on the boat, because when the boat's not moving, you can't steer it. So it'll be a combination of sail trim, how they're heeling the boats from side to side, and they're just going through a tack there by the look of it, which again is a difficult maneuver when you're hardly moving.
A lot of the boats, it appears, are setting up. Still quite a long time to go, 2:25 to go, up towards the windward end, Andy.
Yeah, I think in those kind of conditions there are opportunities that our friend Marcus mentioned yesterday, when everyone is going for the committee boat end of the line. Why not go for the other end, where you escape all that bubble of bad air, and just go for your own speed, go for your own space at the left-hand end of the line. What we can't see so much is what kind of bias there might be on the line, but it's surprising to see how much the whole fleet wants that right-hand side. What are they seeing out there that makes them love the right-hand end of the line so much? Because I don't see it from here.
Certainly, it looks to me where the start line is, there's good breeze. About, 200 metres up from the start line, I'm seeing a light spot. The water is starting to look quite oily and quite flat. Top mark, there's breeze at the moment, but for sure there are some big risky bits on the course. You need a little bit of luck, you need good boat placement.
And look how well they keep these boats positioned. It's much harder to do what they're doing. It looks like they're not doing much at all on board, but I think this is one of the trickiest bits of boat handling. It's like trying to balance a bicycle at the traffic lights when you're not actually moving without putting your feet down on the road. It's a little bit like that.
Great control by the crews.
And it's the Portuguese boat, 127, closest to the committee boat. Will they be able to hold that position? It's a lovely spot to get if you can hold on to it, but will Erik Heil, Germany number 7, close them out from that spot? 44 seconds to go. You
can see there a late lineup, 96 GBR.
That's our series leaders.
So they're coming in late Fletcher, and coming into windward of
Pete Burling,
the New Zealand crew. So the 1 and 2 in the rankings are up towards the windward end. 23 to go. Black flag, can't afford to be over.
Pete Burling still sculling away there, trying to stop the boat drifting into the wind. You've got to make sure that you can get your bow down for the point when you need to accelerate. Just 3 seconds away. Here they go, turning the bow down, building the speed. Bit of an ooch, get the boat going nicely, and that was a nice start for the Kiwis off this end. Pretty good for Dylan Fletcher and Alan Syne in 96. Portuguese closest to us. They have the option to tack away. They're the only boat who would be able to tack at this stage. We see it looks like an Italian boat and the Croatian boat coming over towards us on port tack, about to duck the Portuguese. Let's just switch over to overhead graphics, just see who's got the early advantage, and it looks like it's the boats on the left-hand end, and again, as so often we see, the boat with the early lead is the boat that got the pin end of the line, and this time it's the Italians who won a race yesterday. That's Giuseppe Angelella and Pietro Zucchetti. So rewarded with the pin end start, taking the early lead. Looks good for Burling there when you look at the onboard. It's going to be difficult for Dylan Fletcher and Alan Syne just to windward to live there. Will they actually be able to hang on? Because they're going to start getting bad air off the back of the Kiwi sails if they stay there.
Now we noticed there that the forward hand, Blair Tuke, he's off the wing and has moved forward, compressing the bow. What's that about, Andy? Just trying to reduce wetted surface?
Yes, it is, and look how they well, look at the bow of Dylan Fletcher's boat. It's quite bow down because they're doing the same. So you tend to press the bow down, lift the transom out because the bow is so fine and narrow, and the transom is very broad. You want to stick the knifey bit of the boat in the water and get the big bottom, you know, the wide bottom at the back out of the water, because that's drag.
Because the aft sections of the 49er, they're big, aren't they?
They're wide. They're great for planing in strong winds, but they're terrible in light winds. They're slow in light winds. So you want to get as much of the back of the boat out of the water as you can. But look at how they've extended the Kiwis on the left-hand side of picture. They've really pushed the Brits further back. But out on the far right-hand side, it's the Italians who are continuing to dominate the left-hand side, having got the pin end start, one of those great starts that you can get in a 49er skiff.
Certainly not seeing a lot of peeling off of the field. They're again in the mode of trying to minimise the attacks.
Let's just go to the overhead and see how things are progressing. And it's the left-hand side. So why do we see so many boats want the right-hand end of the line when we see it's actually the guys that start to the left and end up with the early advantage? Seems strange to me.
Certainly the left all day really has, if you were just playing a percentage game, you'd play the left-hand game, and we've seen the two, or the regatta 1 and 2, they've really been in almost a match racing situation, starting next to each other.
This is good for Angelella because they're in 16th overall. I don't think they're going to get into the top 8, but if they get a good score in this race and we get another race in afterwards, then who knows? This is something for them to build on. Nico Delacarth, the Austrian boat, in 2nd place. He was in good contention in the previous race, but ended up 14th. So he still finds himself in 11th overall, and with a lot of work to do to get into the top 8 for tomorrow's final.
Angela, Delacarth, Evans, Burling, Norregard at this stage make up the top 5.
A little bit of windward heel. They're heeling the mast on top of them, which is quite unusual. Normally you see people leaning the boat away from them. So that's quite an unusual sailing style we see there with the Australians.
Will Phillips from Australia. Now
and
the body of the fleet are starting to come back across. Of course, they went off the line starboard. They've done a long starboard now to centre up back to the course. They've got to come back on port at some stage. I think that right-hand side is starting to look quite strong. Just look where Will Phillips ended up by coming left.
Let's have another look at the overhead on the 3D graphics and see how things are shaping up. And yes, it does look, you've got a good eye for this, Peter, I'll give you that, because it does look like the boats on the right-hand side are coming back into contention. Angelella on the far left, nominally still in the lead, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a change of colour on the lead bar there. Possibly Jonas Warra on the right-hand side, currently in 2nd place. Will he become the new leader?
But again, it's about having a lane, isn't it? You can be in a nice position, but if you're covered up or you're getting turbulent wind off a boat ahead of you, that's pretty tricky.
Pete Burling doing very well. He had a great start at the committee boat end of the line, and he had good speed coming off the line and managed to leave Dylan Fletcher in the dust off that line.
So we go back out to real pictures. We can see there the Danish boat, and then there's the Kiwi boat of Burling.
Burling and Blair, and then it looks like a French boat left of picture. That will be Dortely and Delpech.
Top mark just now starting to open up. There's the gate.
That's a nice picture there, isn't it?
Top mark gate.
That's Jonas Warra, front of picture, the 2008 Olympic champion. Currently in 4th place overall. You've
got to believe he should be, if there is any local knowledge, it would be with Jonas Warra.
Yes, he's an Aarhus boy and a very accomplished one at that. But the French are sailing very well in these conditions. They got a 3rd place in the race just now. and they're lying in the top 3 as they go around this mark, just tacking round.
First boat around at the other pin, and then the French coming round this. I think that might have been Burling down at that far end. So his top mark approach must have been very strong, because he was looking at 4th, and then he wriggled out of there in a very nice lane as we look at Burling and Tuke.
So Burling in the lead.
For big guys, you know, they handle a boat very well in the light stuff.
Burling uses his weight so well. He's so aggressive with the boat, and it would be so easy to stop the boat dead if you get those aggressive movements wrong. But he's so precise. Let's just go to the top view, 3D graphics, see how they're getting on. So there we are. There's the big boys in the lead, punching above their weight.
Now, the one I'm looking out for is our first race of the day, Dylan Fletcher. Where's he? Have you picked him up yet?
No, we haven't.
Andy, because that has an impact, doesn't it, when we're looking at the leaderboard, the leaders of the leaderboard. Of course,
I remember he had an almost equal start to Burling. He just wasn't quite good enough.
I think he got squeezed off, though.
He did, and this is the difference we're seeing. He's not even in the... Oh, there he is, in 7th.
Now, what was interesting off the line with Burling is with about 8 seconds to go, he had a bit of a gap to leeward, and he used that gap so that when the gun went, he was 1/4 of a bow length forward. And that was just enough to affect Fletcher, who was really just slightly aft of bow to bow, wasn't he?
Yes.
And that, half a boat length off the line probably was the difference between 1st and 7th.
Yes, and it could have been worse still, I think. I think Fletcher, not too bad in 7th, but that's still very significant.
But what I'm saying is that the small gains can just multiply so quickly in high-performance sailing with these 49er
yes, they can.
skiffs.
And in any kind of boat, actually, being spat out the back on the start line can compound and get worse and worse as the race goes on. And people who are prepared to make those kind of brave starts with a black flag, well, that's the reward that you get, because pushing your boat that close to the line with a black flag hanging over you, that takes some courage.
For me, our race leader, I would put his lead down onto his good start.
Yeah.
And then being able to just consolidate, didn't do too many tacks, showing to be 4th going into the top mark, but then when they actually rounded the mark, he was 1st. Now, some of that might have been a little bit with the geometry of how they approached the top mark, but again, it's the small inches. And you can see why that the spinnaker with the black spinnaker, why they were 2nd at the Olympic Games.
And you see a very similar pattern here to what we saw in the previous race with the leader.
Getting free?
Yeah, getting free down this first run, just getting round in front of everybody else, and somehow or another managing to convert that into a much more significant lead towards the bottom end of the first run. Happens very quickly, and I don't fully understand why it happens.
I think what it is, don't you think it's that the body of the group get locked together and they start jibing on each other, and then they have to sail funny angles to keep their rear clear, whereas if the leading boat can actually get free, as you talked about earlier, they can sail their own race, they can sail the right angles.
I think you're right. I think you've nailed it there, that you get to sail the boat how you want, because asymmetric boats with Jenicas are quite intolerant of sailing the wrong angle. There are other kinds of boat, like a laser without a spinnaker or a 470 with a conventional spinnaker. You can sail many different angles downwind. The 49er, really, it's a very narrow angle that it likes to be sailed at downwind. And if you don't have the space to put the boat in that direction, then your speed is compromised.
So that means the crew have to be very accurate and very precise in terms of how they sail a boat, especially in this light stuff. I mean,
yes. It's very obvious in strong winds, because you basically drop yourself to the bottom of your trapeze lines and you steer the boat as high as you can whilst doing that, and the boat will tell you where to go. But in these conditions, you need to listen to the boat. It whispers at you rather than shouts at you.
I like your line. Very nice. It whispers at you.
So and the big boys with the black Jenica, they're big boys, but they still listen to their boat and just sailing it beautifully, sailing it very smoothly. Let's
coming into the bottom mark. So this is Mark 2.
Set the Jenica, even if it's just for a couple of seconds, and then we'll watch that black Jenica get sucked away into the chute in the bow of the boat. Almost not dropping the kite until they're actually going around the mark, leaving it set until the very last moment.
Now, given that the the left-hand side up the windward beat has been so strong. I'm quite surprised they've taken the right-hand gate. And that's going to bring them, essentially, the leading boat back into the body of the fleet.
I think it
Maybe
may be
there's a bit of bias, do you think?
No, I think it's more the fact that we don't see it in picture at the moment, but the bulk of the fleet is going to put a lot of wind shadow on you if you go the other side. So I think at the moment, this is a clearing tack to get away from the bad air from the rest of the fleet coming downwind. And there go the Italians coming towards us, with the French going the opposite way. So it'll be interesting to see. We've got Italy going right, France going left, pretty much level at this point in the race. Which side is going to pay? Well, now, the French are going to have more bad wind to go through on the far side of the course. The Italians, actually the Italians attacking there, and I'm surprised by that. I wonder what they saw, because they're going to have to take some bad traffic to go that way.
Look how light it is. Whew. They've gone quiet.
So early advantage to the French there. Already they've made a significant gain on the Italians. And there's the Kiwis on the right-hand side sitting in the boat. It looks lighter than it's looked all day, I think.
I think they've made a gain on the New Zealand boat too.
They have, so that in a very short space of time. But the French tacking back there, tacking to leeward. It looks like they want to take the left. The left is where they've made their gains from. So they'd want to protect the left-hand side. But we have the privilege of looking for the commentary position. And when I look further up the course, I think the right looks okay.
Yeah, right centre looks okay. All the way right looks very quiet. But
yes, but I think Burling's going to be okay there.
Yeah, Burling's just starting to put his bow now into a little bit more pressure.
And the Italian has actually dropped back. The Italian took the right-hand side, tacked back very early, because, as you said just now, Peter, you can't afford to come too far this way towards where we are on the shore, because there's not much breeze over here. But I'm not sure it's all about going hard left either.
You see now that Burling has just got his bow into a little bit more pressure. Earlier on we were saying 1 knot, half a knot makes so much difference. Now I'm saying I reckon quarter of a knot is making a huge difference. And we're seeing that here with Burling. Look at them, looking behind, full concentration, mini hiking, using... Look how in unison they are in terms of their movement.
Yeah.
Now, is that subconscious, do you think?
I think it is. I think that comes
from
together. Doing a lot of sailing together. It's amazing, isn't it?
Great to watch. Great skiff sailing here in Aarhus.
And look how big his legs are. His legs are actually having to work pretty hard there. They look like cyclist legs.
Great symmetry as we look at our onboard from...
Rocking backwards and forwards. It looks like flat water from where we are, but when you look at the onboard, you can see that there are still small waves there, and that's what you're seeing them rocking them backwards and forwards to, moving in unison with the boat as it goes up and down over those tiny little waves.
So if you were comparing watching these guys sail with a musical instrument, we've been through this before, what is it today?
It's a set of rock and roll drums being tapped very lightly.
Oh dear, that wasn't what I expected.
You could make a big noise, you know, when you're that big and you're that heavy. You could make a big noise on a 49er, but it wouldn't be pretty. You know, there's ballet going on here.
Great example of light air sailing, skiff sailing. We'll look at, there's the top three. Heading up on the second windward beat, we go up round the top mark. Certainly the boats are into a little bit more breeze now. They're getting right over to, must be getting close, not quite yet, to the port hand ley line.
There's the Danes, Alan Norregard, Peter Lang on the far left.
Now, are they in with a shot? Where are they? They're down in 12th.
Sorry, it's Anders Thompson is the crew.
Down in 12th.
Yes. And I think they need another race, don't they? Let's see. So Alan and Anders on the far left. Then in the middle of the track, Looks like the French boat, Julien Dortely, just tacking.
Dortely has made a nice gain on Burling. Now Burling tacks right on their face, looking to maybe make the French team do a double tack. I think the two boats behind the New Zealanders have got a little bit of pace on them. They seem to have closed in, but
it's going to be hard to get past
Burling's
them there, isn't it?
been really defensive. And right now, certainly he is putting quite a lot of bad air back onto those trailing boats.
I'm surprised they haven't tacked, but I just wonder if they just don't have any ley line left. I think they're very hard on the ley line.
You think they'll ley line at that?
Let's just take the overhead graphics and see if they've got anything more to play with. So that suggests that they don't. When we bring up the 3D graphics, and it looks like they're hard on that ley line. So even though Burling is giving the second and third boats bad air, there's not much they can do about it, because to tack away would be to sail parallel to where they want to go, or perpendicular to where they want to go, so that wouldn't take them any closer to the mark. So they're going to have to take some hard medicine from the Kiwis there. So quite surprised they put themselves in such a tactically vulnerable position.
It's a bit, it's the old game, isn't it? You know, you sail a long tack first, and they did, but then they got out beyond the ley line.
Without being there, it's hard to say why they did that. They're not idiots, so I'm sure there were good reasons why they went up there, and maybe they just saw a band of breeze on the left-hand side that they thought, well, even if we have to take the bad air of the Kiwis, we're going to stick here.
So heading up to the top mark, this is, what's that, mark 4. We've got the run to the finish, and the run to the finish is going to be tricky. There's some very big light spots on the downwind, as we can see the 3 leading boats coming across on port. New Zealand
As
will
long
be
as
first, France, and then Denmark.
Let's watch this tack as the Kiwis go through. A little ooch of the boat, heel it to windward, already hoisting the kite. Transom hasn't even passed the mark, and the kite's already up, and just look at the speed of hoist there.
Straight into their work.
Another nice windward heel by the French, and a very fast hoist by them. Can they get the kite set nicely? Yes, they can.
Andy, where this is going to be tricky is the last 100 metres. It's between just before the bottom mark and the finish, there's absolutely no wind. Now, where they are at the moment, at the top mark, there is a little bit of breeze. We're now getting it down into the, I think, 2 to 3 knot range. But we could see a bit of a roll of the dice at the end of this one.
And this is going to be a critical run for some of the boats on this race, because you look at the conditions and you wonder if the race officer is going to try and get a third one, and it looks doubtful to me.
Starting to look very marginal at best. So maybe again we should just have a little talk about that cut off at 8th right now.
And if we could bring that up on the screen and bring up the overall standings, if that's possible to bring up the overall standings, particularly around the middle of the fleet, if that's possible. So yes, that's a good indication there of what's going on. So 8th is the critical number. So at the moment it's the second Kiwi boat, Marcus Hansen and Josh Prebsky, who are just hanging in there. If they can hang on to these positions and not have other people move forward on them, that would be fine for them. But it's very, very tight on points, and there's other boats that could move into contention ahead of them.
Well, just, based as they went round that mark, the positions at the moment overall would be Burling, Fletcher, Dortely, Heil, Warra, Lima, Peters, Hansen is the cutoff. Now, I look at the course between where they are now and the finish. That's going to change, Andy. There's again, the gap, the crucial bit will be the last 100 metres.
It will, and
because
and so much hangs on this stuff. When you think about the difference between being able to get a top 8 position, so anyone who goes through tomorrow in the top 8 has a chance of winning this championship, becoming European champion. If you finish 9th or worse today, 9th is the best you're going to be able to finish in this championship. and that has all kinds of implications for the future of sailing campaigns. What kind of funding can they get? What kind of sponsorship deals can they get? There's a lot hanging on the next few minutes down to this run, and there's not much wind.
The scary bit is you can be winning this thing and you're first into the park up. And I am seeing, it's not quite a park up yet, is it? There is a little bit at the bottom mark or at the finishing line. But certainly Peter Burling at this stage, if we perhaps just go to the animation, there's a boat that's come down the middle of the course.
It's the Italians who are in fourth round
now,
that mark.
If they are really lucky, really lucky, they could steal a bit of a march here.
Well, they've already stolen a march on the Danish and the French. The Italians have had a very good first half of the run here, and they're jibing. We'll see that on the animation shortly. They're jibing back to consolidate that position.
They've still got to get back, though, and the jibe angles are very tight. I mean, they're probably jibing through, if I was guessing, do you think it's 90?
Yes, I would say so. If we could go back to live pictures and just see how that looks on live images.
But that looks pretty good. They've certainly, the Italian boat, you can see the Italian flag on the spinnaker. So the black spinnaker is the New Zealand team. The Italian spinnaker, who have come from 4th to 2nd.
It's still not going to be enough at this stage to get them through to the top 8. It's going to move them up the rankings, but it still could affect the standings for other people around them. There are the Kiwis, still got a good lead.
And I think, again, they're starting to get into that very light spot now, but the wind has the wind they've got now, I'm seeing through to the finish. So it doesn't look like as a panic stations as it was. We look at the black spinnaker. I'm impressed by this performance. Big guys in light air. Whew.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
But you just see them sail the boat aggressively but gracefully at the same time.
I'd put, if they go on to win this one, which I think they probably will, I would put it down to the start.
Yeah.
That half, 2 meters that they made is a jibe there. So
probably not even, probably a meter.
Now, what they're looking at ahead of them, of course, is that light spot that we've been talking about. As Burling hooks in. I think they're going to try and sail around the outside of the light spot.
So they're going to go on, take the seaside of the out to sea end of the line, because if they took the most direct route, that's where we see the least wind. There's the Italians that have stolen the thunder of some of the other boats. The Italians had a good run here, but they're looking very soft there.
Well, they're on the side that I think there's less wind, the Italians and the number 3 there.
And they do too, which is why they're jibing, and the Danes are jibing right with them. If they can get a better jibe than the Italians, have the Italians dummied them?
That's Norregard.
The Italians did a dummy half jibe to try and send the Danes that way, but based on what we see, was that a smart move?
I think it could be costly, because for me the wind is looking down the track on the right as we look at our race leader, and now the regatta leader comes down over the line, so that's Peter Burling and Blair Tuke take another victory.
Well,
they have
really
got range in their
sailing.
repertoire. Eh?
They have. We have to give that to them.
We were questioning mark. Yeah, look, the Italians did make a mistake here. They jibed away, so Alan Norregard is around the outside. Is he going to be able to get around? Oh, it's close.
Very
it's
close, isn't it? Because
Alan
the Italians
Norregard
look like they can get through in one.
I think
but Norregard's a bit faster. Very, very tight. Very, very tight. Looks like the Danes maybe are going to get this.
Yes, I'd give that to Norregard.
And
that was
a bit of a giveaway.
That little jibe was a bit costly.
It was.
For the Italian team.
They should have followed through with that jibe.
Who's next?
Another, let's see, who is that? That's number 8. That's Julian Dortely and Noe Delpech, sailing a great regatta as well. They're in 3rd overall. And they've just got a 3rd in the previous race. And they're going to cross 4th in this race. So they're having a very good day.
It's very consistent.
Then it looks like it might be Jonas Vara. about to cross, the 2008 champion, who was really effective in the light winds in China. He was the runaway fastest boat in China 5 years ago, and he's always been respected as a great light wind sailor. Next boat through looks like it might be the Austrians. Nico Delacarth, which is crucial for them. They are right on the cusp.
So that's one that we will look when the final points come up. They've come through.
I think that's right on the edge for them. So they will be looking up the course, working out
who's next.
Yeah, have they done enough? And these are guys who won Kilovoka just last week. They've come second in the World Championships. They would be expected to move through to the final 8, but they're on the margins.
What a relief for the Kiwis as they sit down with their coach. Oh no, that's Ben who's there. Ben's alongside. I think we're setting up with Ben Ramoka to have a talk with Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, who won that race. We might just jump in here. We've just got a bit of an audio issue. Unfortunately, it would have been interesting to hear those comments. We might be able to go back in a minute and see if Ben can talk.
What does a Kiwi normally say when he's won a race then?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I'd say there was a bit more yeah than no in that performance there, mate.
Private joke. Andy, you just run through the points. I think the most of the field over. It looks like the cut-off. Nico Delacarth has just scraped in, and the losers from it appear that it's going to be Marcus Hansen. They've slipped back to 9th, so that's been a bit of a costly day for the young Kiwis.
If we can bring those scores up, that would be great, and we can see for ourselves on the screen just what the effect has been. So that was the outcome of that race, and if we can now see the overall effect on the leaderboard. There's Peter Burling confirmed in 1st place, but let's see what's happened in 8th. Now this is very provisional. We've still got boats crossing the line, so this may still change, but it looks like the Kiwis, the second Kiwi boat, Marcus Hansen and Josh Prebsky, might have snuck in. We thought Nico Delacarth had done enough, and earlier on it looked like they had, but more boats have crossed the line since then. So it's very, very on the edge with so few points between those boats from 7th to 10th that we can see there.
Well, that was interesting. I updated my screen off the SAP sailing website, and that was before everyone was over the line, and then you refreshed, and it had changed, and that was how close. So in the end, Delacarth, when 3/4 of the fleet were over the line, was in. By the time the backmarkers got over, he was out, and he's been. It was a bit of a flip-flop there between Delacarth and Marcus Hansen.
And I wonder if we're going to get another race.
Just to confirm, we have started racing for the rest of the day. The wind has gradually gone down. It is now 2 or 3 knots across the race course, so everyone's going home.
Well, you heard it first. That was the voice of our principal race officer, David Campbell-James, and that is the end of racing for the day. Brilliant day, light here racing. There's nothing like it. Intense, very subtle. I thought, to me, the highlights for me, just watching Burling and Tuke, who are really moderate heavy air specialists, I think, but they look so refined in the light air, Andy.
Yeah, I don't think we can call them heavy air, medium air specialists. They're just great all-rounders, aren't they? They are the full package.
Well, it's been great, and it's been our pleasure to bring this coverage to you. Tomorrow is finals day. On Sunday, we will finish with the women's FX racing and top 9 actually. Andy, do you just want to walk us through that? We've been talking about top 8 all day, but there's a little bit of a twist in the tail.
There's a little bit of a golden ticket for Willy Wonka's chocolate factory from the. So we got the top 8 we've been talking about all day, but there's a a repechage opportunity for the winner of the Silver Fleet to move back up and actually move into the final. So we've got 9 boats tomorrow, the 8+1. So it's a very new format. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. It takes a bit of getting your head around, doesn't it?
Well, we've been struggling with it. We've purposely kept the 8+1 out of the conversation because we're totally confused. But now we can confirm. We've got the 8 best women, the 8 best men in the 49er class, plus the winner from the Silver Fleet coming through. So it'll be a 9-boat final in both classes. It'll be brilliant racing. Join us again tomorrow for finals day. Good evening.